In today's modern life, the sole purpose of our living is to become successful, and we all are participating in this rat race in some or the other way. Our unlimited desires have replaced our basic necessities. We are running after success, after money, and after fame. Our life goals now include acquiring assets, properties, and latest gadgets. We have started leading a materialistic lifestyle where money is the ultimate authority. At such times, I recommend everyone to read this book at least once in his or her lifetime. So, friends, I am Sonia Advani and I welcome you all to my today's session on Walden by Henry David Thoreau. I am going to analyze this book and will throw some light on the circumstances which made the author write such extensive piece of work. Friends, while doing my homework for this session, I read about the author also and felt that one needs to know the author of this book also to have a fair understanding of this book. So the author of Walden is Henry David Thoreau. He was born on 1817 in Concord, Massachusetts, and died in 1862. He died because of tuberculosis. He was an American philosopher, naturalist, historian, essayist, social critic, author, and a poet also. His parents made their living by making pencils. They were not very rich people but still were cultured. Thoreau got his education from Harvard. He began his career as a teacher but resigned very soon. Then founded a progressive school, worked for the family business also. He also worked as a town surveyor. He changed several occupations but none could give him solace. His early writing began with writing journals. He wrote many nature narratives and poems also and published essays in the Dial magazine. He was heavily influenced by the American philosopher and Transcendentalist Ralph Waldo Emerson after meeting him in Concord. Emerson became his mentor. He helped Thoreau to find a place where he could pursue his writing career peacefully. Emerson owned a piece of land in the woods in Concord which was surrounded by Walden Pond. He led Thoreau to build a cabin and live there. Thoreau spent a period of 2 years, 2 months, and 2 days in this cabin. He penned down all the experiences that he had during this stay in Walden. In 1854, he published his reflections on life in the woods in the book Walden. This book was considered as a milestone in the quest for self-discovery. Thoreau's celebration of life and his call for the society to recognize the true meaning of life is the core theme of Walden. Friends, I would like to explain a little about Transcendentalism. This is a philosophical movement that developed in the late 1820s in the eastern United States. The followers of this belief are strong believers in the power of the individual. It is mainly related to the idea of personal freedom and self-reliance. This ideology believed that man and nature are inherently pure and good. The society and its institutions corrupt the innate purity of the individual. The followers rely more on intuitions than over empiricism. They have this belief that God manifests himself inside of everyone. They believe that soul is immortal. This belief is directly inspired from the greatest Hindu scripture, Bhagavad Gita, which Thoreau himself mentioned in his writings. These people have deep gratitude for nature and they believe in living in harmony with nature. Won't go further deep in this topic, otherwise it will become a philosophy lecture. Just wanted to tell a little about the ideology that Thoreau believed in. Friends, here I feel very proud of my enriched Hindu heritage. The thoughts and beliefs that provoked movements in the West were explained in detail centuries ago in our holy books. Friends, I think to understand Walden properly, we must know about the author and his beliefs. Now we come back to Walden. This book was published in 1854 with the name Walden or Life in the Woods. When the second edition got published in 1862, The name of the book was changed to just Walden on the author's request. This book is the detailed record of the experiences of Thoreau over the period of 2 years, 2 months, and 2 days spent in a cabin built near Walden Pond amidst woods near Concord. This piece of land where the cabin was built was owned by his friend and mentor Ralph Waldo Emerson. This is an autobiographical memoir in which the author recounts his Walden experiences in the past tense and uses present tense for the philosophical, spiritual, and moral passages. This book was written in English language. Thoreau compressed the span of 2 years, 2 months into a single year and used the passing seasons as motive for human development. He explained in this book how to live a minimalist life amidst nature. This time was a kind of Thoreau's spiritual journey to know the inner self. He believed that by living a simple life close to nature, one can enrich his inner self, which is far more important than chasing after wealth and success, as none of these can fulfill the deepest needs. The book begins with the author informing the readers that he spent 2 years, 2 months, and 2 days at Walden Pond, leading a minimalist life without much support. He makes clear that after this experimental episode, he moves back to the civilized life again. Every chapter of the book focuses on a different experience that Thoreau had during his Walden stay. The first chapter describes the details about building his small cabin, his experiences in the woods, and how he sustained there happily. He tells that he could easily manage to get the 4 basic necessities of life, which according to him were food, shelter, clothing, and fuel, with the help of family and friends. He recorded every single detail about his expenditure and earnings, demonstrating his understanding of the economy while building the cabin, growing and selling beans, and leading a fulfilled life. He sustained on very little money to lead a free and happy life. And this is what he tries to tell, that a simplified lifestyle ensures many spiritual benefits and it is not necessary to live according to the conventional social norms. He always endorsed self-reliance, but was not an extremist. Whenever needed, he sought help from the people around him, but eagerly waited to return the favor also. This is the longest chapter of this book, where he recounted all the memories while building the cabin in Walden and living a happy and minimalist life in it. Then he told the reason of choosing this path. He said that he chose this path deliberately to experience a life which is free from any kind of social obligation and full of freedom. He said that he wanted to experience the real meaning of life, which is much more than the biological and materialistic functioning. It is the inner fulfillment. He forces the readers about rethinking their life choices. Thoreau says that he observed divine pleasure of creation after building that small cabin on Walden Pond. He describes its placement in the cosmos also. By saying so, he was reminding the readers of their inner strength, their divine ability to create a world of their own. He recollects all the circumstances and thought processes which he underwent before coming and settling down in Walden. At Walden, he passed his daytime by reading, contemplation, and walking about the countryside. He was very happy with his simple and minimalist lifestyle and constantly advocated for the same. Thoreau forced readers to recognize the contentment that he was deriving from a simple life devoid of material prosperity. He discusses the benefits of reading classical literature also. He derived pleasure in the sounds of nature and the sounds coming from his surroundings as well. He says, I watch the passage of the morning cars with the same feeling that I do the rising of the sun. Though he was living an isolated life, still he could feel the presence of society continuously interrupting his reveries. On many occasions, He had conversations with many people like the peasant farmer, the railroad worker, or the Canadian born woodcutter Alex. He paid frequent visits to Concord also to seek the company of his friends and to conduct the seasonal businesses. He found the company of nature superior to the human company. For him, to be in harmony with nature signified being spiritually whole. As he mentioned, I find it wholesome to be alone. While visiting once to Concord, Thoreau had to spend a night in jail also, as he refused to pay a poll tax which was levied on all citizens as a precondition for voting. According to Thoreau, the government supported slavery. Next day he was released and he returns to Walden. At Walden, most of Thoreau's time was spent in feeling and understanding nature. He learned from the seasonal cycle and from the creatures in the woods. He devoted great attention to the nature and its signals. He used to observe everything as if each creature and each act has a distinctive moral and philosophical lesson to teach. He also discussed the importance of being vegetarian. Then the season changes from autumn to winter, and Thoreau began preparing for its arrival. He observes the animals as they moved quickly while gathering food. He welcomes the pests that infest his cabin. He plasters his walls to protect himself from the winds. He installs the chimney also. By day, he observed the snow and ice, especially the mystic blue ice of Walden Pond, and by night, he listened to the winds as it whispered outside his door. Suddenly he seemed depressed at the arrival of winter, but then he struggles to overcome it also. He learns from the nature itself that he need not to surrender to the psychological winter in his life. This state of mind was symbolically depicted by the author by cutting a hole in the ice and catching a glimpse of the life moving below the ice at Walden Pond. He metaphorically was looking within his soul. Then he recalls that one January day, a crew of 100 Irish labourers were cutting out the Walden ice for sale in warmer cities. At first he was upset, but then he was glad at the thought of people from other places deriving great value from his Walden. He tells that in the morning he would bathe his intellect in the stupendous and cosmogonal philosophy of the Bhagavad Gita, which would transmit him to a state of deep reverence and an imaginary moment where he had this feeling that he had integrated Oriental and Western cultures. Thus, the pure Walden water was mixed with the sacred water of the Ganges. Here, Thoreau's imagination is stimulated and he depicts a feeling of oneness amongst the people of different cultures and philosophies. Friends, I missed to mention this important part in my previously uploaded Hindi summary of Walden. Please forgive me for that. Then once he thinks of measuring the depth of Walden and the other neighboring ponds, he found that Walden, which was considered as a bottomless pond, was around 100 feet deep only. He still finds this depth remarkable for such a small area. He meditates also on the pond as a symbol of infinity. Winter passed and spring approached with a huge roar of the breaking up of the Walden ice, which then began to melt and hit the shore. Thoreau felt his own spiritual meltdown also, and describes the onset of spring as a vast transformation on the face of the world, a time when all the sins are forgiven and the world was once again being created as though for the first time. Thoreau then describes all the changes that take place during spring, and as nature grows towards its summer maturation, Thoreau also moves towards his spiritual fulfillment. He announced that his Walden project is over now, and he returned to the civilized life on 6th of September 1847. Based on his experiences at Walden, he suggests his readers to begin a new and a real life. He says that just because we live in some particular city within the four walls, we should not conclude that our lives are limited to that only. Neither do we need to travel around the world to have an enriching life. Rather, we should travel towards our inner self by discovering our inner potentials and try to elevate ourselves. Friends, this Walden Pond is symbolic of the author's self, and in the end of the book, he declares the rebirth of his spirit, or we can say his spiritual elevation, by describing the waters of the youthful Walden Pond sparkling in the sun on the spring, rolling on into summer. Winter is long gone now. The book is over now. But friends, I would like to mention few quotes from the book which according to me describe the whole theme of the book, the most important lines. I went to the woods because I wished to live deliberately, to front only the essential facts of life and see if I could not learn what it had to teach, and not when I came to die discover that I had not lived. Here, Thoreau is telling the reason behind deliberately choosing this path. He tells that he wanted to see and test by himself that whether he can sustain an isolated life in the woods devoid of any material prosperity or not. And he finds that very minimal is required to live a fulfilled life if we understand the real meaning of life. The second quote is, most of the luxuries and many so-called comforts of life are not only not indispensable but positive hindrances to the elevation of mankind. Thoreau believed that more the materialistic prosperity, more are the chances of getting distracted from the path of recognizing the inner potentials. And in the end, it is not worth the while to go round the world to count the cats in Zanzibar. In this satirical statement, Thoreau states that it is not necessary to travel the whole world without any purpose. Rather, we should travel towards our inner self and recognize our hidden potentials so that we can elevate ourselves, our souls. Friends, I tried to explain Walden and little about the author Henry David Thoreau also. It's quite a different kind of philosophical book, my first attempt in this genre. Hope you like it and benefit from this video. If you like my analysis, then do like the video and also subscribe to my channel, The Joy of Reading. So bye for now, have a great day and keep spreading the joy of reading.